You're listening to A Slice of Therapy with me, Alun Parry. So one of the things I see a lot in the self-help world is this phrase, which comes up in various incarnations, which urges you to live a life beyond your wildest dreams. And I was looking through a sale on at the moment of audiobooks, and this is a book I saw. Its tagline was, "Live a life beyond your wildest dreams." And I always have a reaction to this, and I'll tell you what my reaction is. It's a little bit of panic that it kicks in. It's this little bit of a sense of, oh no, I'm living life wrong. I have to do something different. I have to learn this stuff that's in this book, because then I can live a life beyond my wildest dreams. And then I catch myself and think, this is what these titles are designed to do, to instill a sense of panic and angst and a sense of inadequacy and misery, so that we then go and buy the book. And I can't help thinking, why do we need a target? Why do we need to set the benchmark quite so high as a life beyond our wildest dreams? I mean, our wildest dreams is quite a high benchmark as it is, but now I have to go beyond that. And so I can't help thinking, really, that what these kind of titles do and what these kind of urgings do is encourage a kind of discontent in stuff that we'd otherwise feel quite satisfied with. I mean, most of us are kind of in the centre of the bell curve. That's why it is a bell curve. And, a life that is a decent life, a good life, is quite a simple, average thing. And that's something that we can get a lot of enjoyment from. Now, whenever there is suffering, I think there needs to be change. And so when we're experiencing the responses of trauma, or there's a real thing that is causing us a great deal of pain in our lives, I think it's a really good idea to end suffering. Suffering is something that we can kind of look at and deal with and move forward with. And the other thing that I think is a general good, and which actually does make us feel happy because our dopamine system likes forward movement, is some sense of forward progress in some way. Now, this needn't be living a life beyond your dreams. It might be, that you like to potter in the garden. And when you potter in the garden, forward progress is just noticing that the plant that you planted is now beginning to flower. And I think there's a lot to be said about a sense of enoughness, a sense of the idea that our average, ordinary lives are okay. A sense of comparing ourselves not with a life beyond our wildest dreams, which seems to me a setup for misery and discontentment, but a sense of, instead of that, a sense of knowing that if we can end suffering and if we can have just some sort of sense of forward progress, that if we actually compare ourselves with ourselves, rather than this thing that seems a million miles out there that we have to read this book in order to get to, and still probably won't, because who can really reach a bar that isn't just our wildest dreams, but beyond that? And so, as you can see, I have a bit of reaction to this kind of thing. Now, the kind of lives that people lead is that We have friends, we make a contribution in the world as best as we can. We might have children, or maybe a dog or a cat that we love, and we have hobbies and interests, and we look after ourselves, we look after each other, and then at some point it all comes to a close. And that to me seems a good life, with plenty of enjoyment in there if we can remove the suffering. And so I suppose I'm recording this episode in response to this kind of live a life that's beyond your wildest dreams. Just to kind of restate that, the kind of lives that we all live, they're okay, they're good lives. And so for me, the suffering that we might carry from childhood or from any kind of event that might have happened in life, that's certainly good to work on, to have a sense of forward movement, so we get the kind of meaning that, say, Viktor Frankl talks of, or the kind of forward growth that kind of helps our dopamine system make us feel good about things, the kind of comparison which is a comparison of ourselves yesterday, rather than some wild benchmark, seems to me a good enough goal. And that when we start to, give ourselves a target that is not even just our wildest dreams, but even that's not good enough, we have to go beyond our wildest dreams, then it seems a shame to me that we're being programmed into discontent, that we're being programmed that even when life is going well, a title like that tells us that actually our life is inadequate. And I suppose in this episode, I'm restating that our lives are not inadequate and that we live good, happy lives, and that's good enough. So in terms of what we need to work on, and this is just my opinion, of course, and you can reject it and say, well, actually, no, I want a life beyond my wildest dreams, and if that's you, that's okay. But for me, the real value is to remove the suffering that gets in the way of our contentment. To have a sense of forward progress, which always feels quite satisfying. And I think as well, there's something about the incremental change of helping ourselves feel successful. You see, some of these titles, I think, set us up to fail. Which isn't a bad thing for the self-help industry, of course, because if we all feel like failures, we'll probably buy the next book and see if that cracks it. But it's a good thing, I think, to set ourselves up for success. And I've spoken about this on the podcast before. Like, what is the thing that you can do that you can pretty much guarantee will just move you a little step forward? These little steps forward, these forward progresses, I think are far more valuable than benchmarks that are pretty much unattainable or really difficult to achieve and which set us up to fail. And so I think that's all I want to say on this now. I've got it out my system, so thanks for listening. But I don't think our lives are inadequate. Us in the middle of the bell curve, getting on, doing our thing, making our contribution, interacting with our friends and loved ones. I think where there is suffering, it does us good to tackle it. I think a sense of forward movement is always quite satisfying and gives us something to focus on. And I think that's a good life. I don't think that's an inadequate life. And I don't think that we have to set ourselves ridiculous, beyond our wildest dreams goals in order to feel as though our lives are worthwhile. So I'm holding my nose and blowing a big raspberry to all those self-help books that set the bar way too high and program us into discontent. So my wish for you is that your suffering shall end and that you'll find something which will give you the contentment of a mild forward movement in your life, so that you find life enjoyable, that you find your interactions fun, and that you have hobbies and interests that make life worthwhile. And that to me is a more than adequate life. So that's all from me. And thanks for listening to my little rant. If you found this episode useful, please do share it so other people can get the benefits as well. If you'd like to work with me directly, I'm Alun Parry, and you can find more about me at liverpoolpsychotherapy.co.uk. And of course, you don't have to be local to me because I work online, so you can be based absolutely anywhere. And of course, please subscribe to the podcast as well, because it's absolutely free and it means that you'll never miss an episode again. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you again on the next one.